everybody. It's lovely to get out of town on vacation. I always find, though, that the week before and the week after can be a little hectic trying to get out of town and then trying to get yourself back and get reorganized and all of that. So anyway, I'm super excited to be here today. I love engaging with you all. It's absolutely such an important thing, I think, to talk about these sorts of topics. Always, but especially so in this current experience of COVID, right? Just making connections and supporting each other, so absolutely important. And I'm really excited to be here today because I want to talk today a little bit about challenging clients, how to work with clients with heart, right? So how do we work with clients in a way that helps them continue to move forward, accomplish the goals and the things we're trying to accomplish, while at the same time, we have heart and we have compassion for the humanness, right, and the person part of them. One of the things, and many of you, I'm sure, know this as an entrepreneur, is that entrepreneurship is not just about having an idea and bringing it to life, but it's also about listening to people and hearing what it is that they need and tweaking what it is that you do and offer to fit those needs. And one of the things that I've been hearing so much lately is that, yeah, absolutely, everybody's important about very much focused on and wants support around the getting the job done, right? Growing and scaling your business, bringing in the right pieces and parts and learning how to work with teams. That those I call those hard skills, those business skills are absolutely important and absolutely essential. But what I'm consistently beginning to hear from you all is that there's also a need for the other side of that equation, right? So the humanness side, right? The energy we bring as people to our businesses and to our work, whatever that might be, whether we own a business or we're an employee and work for someone else, or we run groups, or we're the head of a family. The work that we do, when I think about work, it is a bigger, all-encompassing experience. And so the kind of ultimate question always is, how do we get done what we need to get done and have heart in the process? And I want to thank my community because I have had a lot of different folks contributing and sharing ideas and things they want to hear more about. And so I want to send a shout out to Carmela O'Flaherty, who dropped a comment a while back. She was wanting to know some ideas around how to deal with challenging clients, those kinds of people, specifically the talkers, right? The ones that seem to bring one example after another over and over and over and over, that in her opinion as a coach seems to take them further and further from their point, or further and further from the purpose of the work, and that it's so difficult to stop these kinds of folks and get them to refocus and bring them back. And she was wanting to hear a little more about what that is, how that works, and some ideas around that. And one of the things that I definitely want to make clear and definitely want to emphasize is that everything people do has absolute 100% meaning. There are very few purposeless words, actions, behaviors, mannerisms, habits. Everything has meaning, right? And we can certainly get bogged down in the nitty-gritty of trying to constantly monitor those things. On the other hand, when we take the time to really begin to learn about that piece and what that really means and what someone's trying to communicate to us, it will give you such profound advantage over your competitors. Beyond it giving you an advantage, that feels important to say because so many of you are business owners and entrepreneurs, and you're trying to find the way to distinguish yourself from the next person. Being able to connect as a human is powerful. It is, especially in this day and age, right, with COVID-19 and just all of the things going on and the hardships that people are living through and transitions. Being able to connect to people as a person, as a real, authentic, genuine connection is powerful and will be one of the things that sets you apart, building those relationships. I mean, you can pick up any news article right now, you can read anything about business and leadership, and the number one theme that keeps popping up over and over and over is empathy, communicating, support. And what I want to say about those three things, and I promise you we will get back to the topic, what I want to say about those three things, empathy, communication, and support, is that those are not cognitive processes. You can't really learn how to do those by reading a book. To be sure, cognitive knowledge is important. It helps us get the breadth and scope of what we're dealing with, maybe understand more about the pieces and connect some dots and the nuts and bolts and how the process flows. You know, those pieces are important. I'm not saying they're not. But if someone wants to genuinely learn how to relate to others, the only way to go about doing that is to go inside and begin to learn about this inner world of you. It's something that as a society, we've gotten very far away from in terms of what we support, what success looks like, and so on. And there's an amazing quote by St. Augustine, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't remember all of how it's exactly said. But the quote basically says, you know, people travel to the ends of the earth. They spend inordinate amounts of money and time and energy to look at the mountains and the oceans and foreign lands. And in the process of all of that, rarely spend a moment going inside and exploring in here. And you know what, folks? This is the source of most of our distress, our unrest, our fighting, our unhappiness, our dissatisfaction, the reasons why your business might not be booming or your messages aren't on point. It's because if you don't have a connection in here, you aren't clear inside of you about who you are and how you want to show up in the world, then it makes it very, very difficult to move that forward in the outside world. You have to have help in learning how to dive in and explore and learn about who you are. And so how this relates to the topic today is that when we're dealing with clients, you know, and believe me, I get these. I get these in my therapy practices. I get them in my coaching practice. You know, the folks who tend to do a lot of storytelling, right? And perhaps it's one example after another, after another, after another. What I know about that is that the storytelling, and that's what I call it, that the storytelling is a very, very important process that's happening inside of them. What's happening is that rather than being able to stop and get out of the story and really drop into what it is that they've showed up in that session to work through, it would be too much. They'd start to feel too much or it'd be overwhelming. And in order for that to happen, they're going to need some more support. And I tend to work from the mindset, which is a really fascinating and paradoxical approach, because my whole entire life I was really modeled and taught and encouraged to kind of like push through, right? And go after it. And when you get stuck, just double down and go harder. And what I have learned is that may work in terms of some outside world things. But that generally speaking, when it comes to the inside world and that inner experience, pushing through does not allow us to take a next step with heart. It does not allow us to take a next step in an embodied, center-grounded kind of way in line with who we are as a person. So when someone's in storytelling, it's almost like a place of impasse. It's like a place of protection, where what they're coding to you, C-O-D-I-N-G, is that they need a little more supports inside before they can really stop and focus and drop into that next piece. They're having feelings about it, right? And you might think, well, I'm a coach, I'm a business owner, I don't have time for that kind of stuff. I'm here to solve their problems. And I always go back to the thing that says, well, do you want to just solve a problem at the surface, right? And you might change a habit for a short period of time, but I promise you, if you don't deal with the underlying issues, the habits will come back. They may not look the same, but there will be relative habits that are serving the same purpose. Or do you want to really get underneath what, say for in this example, in this case, storytelling is really about? Storytelling, and this is true in relationships as well. When couples are continually, in this constant fight, this constant battle, right? We all have those, the things that, we can't let go of about our partners or our kids. They won't pick up their shoes from the front door, or they won't take the trash out, or whatever it might be. When we're in a fight, we're in a loop. That is always about being in a place of impasse, which what that means in terms of kind of the therapeutic perspective is that a person needs support to continue building the necessary and requisite inner skills for them to take a next step. And you're right, Carmela, there is absolutely no way you're going to be able to stop them or refocus them. You can get into that power struggle. You can, fight them. You can push them to get focused and all of those sorts of things, which may work in the short term. Nothing wrong with that approach if that's something you believe is important and effective. By all means, we do what we know. However, if you really truly want to help folks in a deeper way, to learn not only about what it is they've showed up to you to help learn and change, but also to learn about that experience, then you have to go inside and learn about yourself, because impasse storytelling is about safety and is about protection. And so for me, that would be the place I would dive in. One of the things I've learned throughout my whole entire life, this happened all the time, especially when I used to teach physical education. You've got the perfect day planned, right? And you look outside and it's pouring down rain. You got to pivot, and you got to pivot fast, right? That, the thing I've really learned from all of my life experiences, my own work in therapy and coaching, as well as just, being alive for a large number of years, is that we have to flex and we have to be dynamic in our approaches. When we have a lot of rigidity and we're coming at something with a very set expectation of what needs to happen, we are going to very often leave our hearts at the door. We have an agenda and we need to get through that agenda instead of being able to go and meet that person where they are. We might accomplish some things, but when we look back, we're going to see that we could have done so much more for the people we work with when we can learn to make room for their heart as well. So, I always like to say that absolutely everything someone brings is what the work needs to be about. So someone shows up and they want to learn how to, they say that they come to you and they want to learn a specific skill set. That everything that happens along the way in that process of working with that person is grist for the mill. And if you're clinically trained to understand how to weave that into your work, there can be some really profound, like multi-level changes and transitions and transformations that happen inside of a person. That not only as they gain more and more of these outside business skills and change things in their life, you're also fundamentally helping them reconnect and learn about who they are in that core and in their essence. So dealing with challenging clients is always going to also reflect about what you might get stuck on inside of yourself in a place where you don't even know this is happening, right? So when we struggle with something about another person, it very often is a mirror for something relevant inside of us. And without being able to work through that and understand, with a clinical guided professional who can help us guide through that, it's very difficult to know what that's about. And so how do we help others? First, by taking care of ourselves. First, by dealing with ourselves. How do we help another person grow? By committing to our own personal growth process. And I'm not talking about a cognitive growth process. I'm talking about the deep dive inside, the nitty gritty, the pull your sleeves up and let's go in and find out what's going on. Because as you work on these issues inside of yourself, you will organically and intrinsically know how to meet someone else in a place that they need. So again, thank you so much to Carmela for this shout out about what she'd like to hear more about. As always, I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you being here. I'd love to hear your comments, your thoughts, your reactions. Feel free to drop those in the Facebook group. You can send me an email message directly. I'm always interested in what you have to say. And for those of you who might have some other ideas around things you might like to hear about, please absolutely let me know that too. You know, that's what this community is absolutely all about, is about supporting you in your process, in your growth, both as business owners and entrepreneurs and leaders, but also as people. And now more than ever, we need that. So as always, thank you for watching, and bye for now.